The four most basic and important types in Swift are int for integer values, double for floating point values, string for strings, and bool, which can only be true or false. Besides those, arrays and dictionaries are often used, but they will get extra attention later on in the course. Let's start with integers. Without really knowing it, we already worked a bit with integers, since we have implicitly made our myVariable and myConstant have the type integer. Now, what does implicitly mean? And how can we explicitly declare a type? Implicitly means we haven't actually written integer anywhere, when we created, for example, myVariable. But since we have given it the value 5, Swift automatically assumed that the type would be integer. And if we wanted to explicitly say that this should be of type int, we would have to write it like this. Var myExplicitInt colon int is equal to 5. Now after the name, we can write the colon, and after that, the type we want our variable or constant to have. This is especially useful when we do not set an initial value, which we will learn later on. In this case, the explicit type declaration is actually not necessary, since the implicit assumption of Swift would be right. However, if we take a look at our next type, we can try an example, where it makes much more sense. We are now looking at doubles. These are used to describe numbers with decimals. However, a double variable could also have an integer value at first. So let's declare one by saying var myDouble is equal to 7. We have now created our variable, and let's just try and set its value to 7.5, since we wanted it to be a double. We get an error, of course, because Swift assumed it would be an integer, since the initial value was an integer. If, however, we declare myDouble explicitly by saying myDouble and adding a double after the colon here like this, the error is gone. So this is where the explicit declaration of a type really makes sense. On to strings. Strings can contain letters, words, numbers, everything that can be used to build an actual string. Important is that a string always stands in between quotation marks. Let's create one. Var myString is equal to this is a string, and that's basically it. Easy, right? We could also set a number string, for example. Var myNumberString is equal to 30. The quotation marks are really important here, since Swift would otherwise assume it is an integer variable again. The last of the four most basic and important types is bool. This Boolean value can only be true or false and is often used in conditions and loops, which we will work with soon. A bool would be declared like this, for example. Let Swift is cool is equal to true. Notice how I made this a constant? I did so because in my opinion Swift is in fact cool, and since this won't change, we won't need to change the value of Swift is cool. Wonderful! Now you know about the most basic and important types in Swift. In the next lecture we are going to use them a little bit and see what we can already achieve.